David Soffer is a guy who's been on the show quite a bit over the last 3 months or so talking about this. He ran for office as a Kansas State rep here. He's got a deep background on this, deep personal knowledge on this as well, and he joins us on KCMO. David, it's been a few weeks. Good morning. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Pete. Appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Take me through, what the last few weeks have been like for you, for the Jewish community here in Kansas City and around the world as, of course, things continue on in Israel. And frankly, it doesn't look like there's an end in sight as of right now.
Sure. Unfortunately not. For us, the last few weeks really has been around creating awareness on the fact that since we last spoke, there were hostages released, and we're very thankful that over 100 hostages are now back on Israeli soil. But at the end of the day, we still have 136 hostages that remain in Hamas captivity. Obviously, there's still the war going on, and certainly there's been casualties on both sides of that. That's very unfortunate. But for us, what we're trying to do is we just continue to create awareness. We continue to let people know, again, people talk about, wanting a ceasefire, wanting an end to the military operation. Right now, we need 136 hostages back, turned over to Israelis that belong, to be freed. That's the number one talking point. And so, as soon as those hostages are released, we can begin to talk about, what the next steps look like. There's been a proposal from Egypt to potentially end this war as long as Hamas vacates Gaza. Of course, they've decided to turn down that offer because for them it's all about control. It's all about continuing to commit terrorism. It's all about continuing to kill Jews. And so, from that sense, unfortunately, it looks like we're at a stalemate as far as finding an end. But from Israel's standpoint and from the Jewish community standpoint, right now, our biggest deal is trying to create awareness, for the 136 hostages that remain in captivity.
How about the popularity of Netanyahu? There's some reporting here over the weekend that Joe Biden is kind of at his wit's end, I guess, or he's running out of patience was the headline I saw with Netanyahu. Not that necessarily that should be a decision maker, but what is the pulse as you see it from Israel and from the Jewish community when it comes to Netanyahu?
That's a good question. I think from Jewish communities' end, I think it's twofold. So from the American Jewish community's end, I think that there's Israelis are going to deal with this issue once the war is over. Right now, as in any war, I think right now the focus is making sure that, at the end of the day, we don't have to deal with Gaza once we don't have to deal with Hamas once this is all said and done, and figuring out what Gaza becomes, who it gets turned over to, how it's run. What the security component of that looks like. I think that's our biggest focus right now. Certainly there, like any war, when your country's attacked, that there's going to be some political ramifications. What exactly those will be, that's up to the Israeli citizens and what that looks like. So I don't know. I don't know as far as what that'll end up being, but certainly, from the Jewish community's end, and certainly I know from the Israelis I talk to right now, the real focus is on making sure that, from the security standpoint, things are, don't end up being what end up happening where October 7th happens again. And then also from Israel's standpoint, just making sure that, whenever this war does wind down, everything is accomplished and we're able to move forward without a Hamas-controlled Gaza.
Yeah, and is it, I don't want to say is it taking longer than you expected, but the complications of some of the things that you're talking about, the political side, along with, of course, the safety side, trying to get hostages released, is all this taking longer maybe than many expected based on the fact that Israel does have a top-of-the-line military?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, but, from our knowledge and, knowing kind of the way Hamas operates with respect to building tunnels all across Gaza, we knew they would not be, for the most part, hanging, up, outside of their tunnel network. And so, it's difficult. Obviously, it's funny, I'll quote the Biden administration when they say Israel's the only military that would let people know when they're going to strike, how they're going to strike, exactly at what time, so people can vacate. Unfortunately, civilian deaths still occur because of how dense Gaza is and the fact that Hamas would rather put their population, in danger of being killed rather than, again, fight a fair battle. But, it's fascinating in the sense that that's the way Israel, of course, always wants to make sure we try to limit civilian casualties. And at the end of the day, it's one of these things that there's a balance there. And so it's taking longer because we have to warn civilians when buildings are going to be attacked, demolished, so on and so forth. And we're trying to get them to evacuate. And that's part of the battle, but we're thankful we have great partners in the sense of understanding the fact that, why this is happening, how this is happening. I mean, for instance, the Kansas legislature put together a resolution last week, making sure that people know that Hamas is the one that's responsible. So the fact that this is taking, unfortunately, a little bit longer than we'd like, at the end of the day, the reason for that is Hamas would rather hide amongst the civilian population and put their population in danger rather than fight a military battle, in which case then Israel could have had this accomplished a lot sooner.
Last thing here, David Soffer joining us on KCMO. Got about a minute and a half on this, but listen, it's America. Anyone can peacefully protest anywhere in this country at any time, but you continue to see this pro-Palestinian protest movement, and oftentimes it's masked as pro-Palestinian when it's, I would argue, in large part, anti-Jewish protesting that is taking place. And you're seeing it all over the country in many major American cities. Hasn't really slowed down. Hasn't been a lot of focus on it by the media like I think it would be if it were other groups protesting. What's the reaction been and the acceptance or lack thereof of understanding this is just how it's going to be, and the media is going to protect these protests in large part?
Yeah, I think on one hand, obviously, I agree with your sentiment. I think, unfortunately, with it being Jews, sometimes it's just ignored and people don't want to pay attention to it. I think certainly from our community standpoint, we're very much paying attention to it. And I would tell you, again, on the one hand, things are going to happen. I don't know that we can stop every single protest. Our hope is that our local community partners speak up when those things are happening, especially when anti-Semitic remarks are being made, constantly at these protests. But at the same point in time, I mean, we're certainly engaging. We're creating our own, let's say, billboards and the like to be able to counter that. Again, we've got our community partners, we've got our political partners that are willing to engage. So we use a whole, network of people that support us, support our community, want to make sure that, anti-Semitism does not become part of this and really do speak out against, the anti-Semitism that's occurring at these protests. And so we've been very thankful for those community partners, and we continue to engage with them and continue to fight back in that sense, not literally like the other side sometimes does, but certainly, figuratively and through our own protests as well.
Well, we appreciate you, David Soffer, ran for our Kansas House here and always taps into what's happening in the Jewish community around Kansas City and at large. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.